the scripture reading, which is Matthew 2, verses 1 through 12. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising, and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it had been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child. And when you have found him, bring me word so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen at its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Amen. And you may be seated. And if you would, continue in an attitude of prayer with me. Father, I ask that during this time that you would come and open the ears and soften the hearts of your children. And I ask that you allow the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart to be pleasing and acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Amen. I think I know what some of you are thinking, besides where are we going to go eat for lunch. You're probably thinking, why in the world are we singing Christmas songs and are our Christmas decorations still up? Anybody think that today?
Amen.
A few? Yeah? Okay. Well, today, thanks Brenna, she said yes. Today is the 11th day of the 12 days of Christmas. The 12 days start on December 25th and end on January the 6th, Epiphany, which is also called the Theophany, when we understand that God revealed himself as the light, the incarnate Christ, God made flesh. We celebrate that on January the 6th, also happens to be my brother's birthday, but hey, so we're on day 11 right now. So if you'd like to get me a gift, according to the song, you should get me 11 pipers piping. Which isn't that like the worst gift ever? Would you want 11 bagpipers showing up to your house? Hey honey, guess what I got you for Christmas? Wait, I'm talking about the wrong song. So I'm still in my last sermon on the sermon series over songs of Christmas that we sing. And today I want to talk about the Epiphany song that we sing, We Three Kings. And interestingly enough, We Three Kings is pretty intact in its original form. It was written in 1875 by John Henry Hopkins Jr., 1857, not 1875. I got those numbers reversed. Heaven forbid I miss it by 18 years. And strangely enough, this song has stayed pretty true to its original written word throughout its entirety. And that's one of the first songs that I've looked at in this series that's actually stayed the same for 150 years. And I think that it's odd because it's probably one of the most theologically inaccurate songs that we have. Because what did Dan just read to us this morning? He read us the story of the Magi coming to visit Jesus, right? Does it tell us how many people were there?
No.
No, it just tells us that they brought 3 gifts. Now, in the Eastern tradition, the church split in about the 4th, 5th century, the first time it split between East and West. The East believed there were 12 different wise men that came, the number of the tribes of Jerusalem, and the Western church believed that there were 3. Now, who's to say? And the Bible doesn't tell us, so we're just kind of guessing. That's part of having faith, is believing something that you can't really prove, right? So there were some wise men that came. So there were 3, and they weren't kings. The word in the Hebrew or in the Greek here is magoi. We translate it magi in some translations, or wise men in others. It's actually used 2 other times in the rest of the New Testament. And both of the other times that it's not used here in Matthew chapter 2, it's translated as magician. Well, why in the world would they talk about magicians in the New Testament? Well, that's probably why they changed it to magi and wise men, is because they didn't want to be talking about Harry Potter, did they? And the church didn't have a great history with witches, right? I mean, that wasn't really looked favorably upon in the Middle Ages. And so they decided to call them magi, or wise men. And these wise men traveled from afar bearing gifts to Jesus. They brought 3 different things. They brought gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Now these magi, it's hard to tell. Historians have different opinions on exactly who they were. They were probably people that practiced some sort of astronomy. So some people believe what happened was this group of people looked up into the stars, and in about 4 BC, the planets aligned in a certain way, where one of the planets aligned with 2 other planets that made it look like a king was being born in Jerusalem, and so some astronomers explain it like that. In 6 BCE, some people believe that the Chinese recorded a supernova exploding, and it made a bright light in the eastern sky, and so some people think that it's that. Or some people just think that there was some sort of mysterious star that appeared, and people were like, hey, that's not normal. We should go follow it and bring some great gifts with us because something special is going on. So the story itself of the Magi is kind of shrouded in what I call historical mystery. That's where our belief comes in. Does it really matter if there were 3 people there or 12 people there? No. You can say no on occasion. Y'all are so used to telling me yes, right? Does it matter if the star was a supernova or the planets aligning or some miraculous mystical floating light? No. Y'all learn quickly. Well done. What matters is that these were men and women that were respected that brought these gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And gold, I mean, how many of y'all have gold on right now? It is an expensive jewelry, right? That can be used for lots of different things. People used it as decorations, or to make ornaments, or to make dinnerware. I don't know of any people that use dinnerware these days is gold. And frankincense. Have y'all been around pine trees and juniper trees? You know how they get that sap on the outside of them? Well, frankincense or myrrh are both saps that are taken from 2 different trees. Frankincense, what they would do is they'll heat it up, and when they heat it up, it burns, and this sweet-smelling smoke arises out of it. And it was typically used as a perfume. But frankincense was the only incense that could be used at the temple of the Old Testament altar. So it was significant for the Jews because this was what they would come and bring before God as their sacrifice as a part of Him. And myrrh was a different sort of smell. It was used on clothes or furniture because they didn't have deodorant back then, so they got, a little bit of that natural smell going on. And they needed something to cover it up. And so they would use myrrh to help in those situations, and they'd also use it to help in the burial tombs. Now, I'm sure all of y'all are accustomed with the ancient burial rites of first century Jews, right? What they would do in Jesus' day is they would put a body of a Jewish person in a tomb. They would wrap it up in linen cloths, and they would put incense like myrrh in the tomb. And after a year or 2, the body would completely decay, and the only thing that would be left were the bones. What they would do is they would then gather up the bones of their loved ones so that when the resurrection occurred, they'd all be together in one place. They put them in a little limestone box called an ossuary, and they put them in the east side of Jerusalem most of the time if they lived there and could afford it, so that they could be the first to rise. In fact, if you go to Jerusalem now, you'll see a big graveyard on the east side of it that has these little ossuary boxes, because that's the way they embalmed people 2,000 years ago. Now you know, right? You're just thrilled to death about that knowledge. And they would use myrrh in this process. Moral of the story is, there were these people that were well-respected people that traveled for hundreds, maybe thousands of miles, from possibly as far as China or India, maybe Iraq or Iran, and they brought the best of what they had to God. They didn't bring him some just rinky-dinky, here's a little copper coin. They didn't bring him a donkey. They brought him gold and frankincense and myrrh. They brought him the very best of what they had, because they didn't know who he was or what he was going to be or what he was going to do with his life. But they knew that something special was going on. And because of that, they wanted to give the best that they could. Typically at the beginning of the year, I issue challenges to the church. And any of y'all have New Year's resolutions this year?
No.
I made one resolution, and it was to make no other resolutions. That's always my standard resolution. But we look at the new year as a time to start fresh. I was talking to some of the youth girls this morning, and they're like, we want to read our Bible more and pray more. Those are good goals for us to have as Christians, right? Maybe some of y'all should have those goals as well, is to read your Bible more and to pray more. What we can learn from this story from the three kings is that what God is calling us to do is to bring our best to Him. We have the knowledge that the wise men didn't, that this baby would become the king, the sacrificial lamb, God incarnate that healed the sick, raised the dead, walked on water, cast out demons, and Himself died and rose on the third day. One of my seminary professors who changed my life said it like this: God doesn't just want your emails or your dollars. He wants your sons and your daughters. Because that hits us at home, doesn't it? When I have to say, okay, God, I'm going to trust you with my kids. Okay, God, I'm going to give you the best of what I have. Because all too often when we come to God, we love to give God our leftovers. You know, we got a little bit of leftover time today, so I can read my Bible today. I've got time for it. I've got a little bit of money today, so I'll give a little bit of it into the plate. I've got a little bit of extra time on a Sunday morning, I'll go to church. God doesn't want our leftovers. He wants the best of what we have. And I don't know what that is for you, but He's calling us to be able to be sacrificial with the very best of who we are, because He is worth it. And this is what He asked for us. My family and I have been reading through the Chronicles of Narnia together. I don't know if y'all have read those books.
Yeah.
And the third book, The Horse and His Boy, the main character is named Shasta. And Shasta grew up a slave. And he's about 9 or 10 in the book. And he's running away, and he accomplishes this really hard task. And C.S. Lewis, in these books, he interrupts them oftentimes and has his own little commentary. And he says, the one thing that Shasta didn't know, that he was soon to find out, is that when one hard task is accomplished, an equally difficult or even more task is likely to follow it. And that's how I feel with my life right now in the state of the Methodist Church. Man, God, you brought me to a denomination that you made me go to a church plant that didn't work, and you brought me to a great church and things have gone good, and now it's going to split. What's going on, God? Any of y'all ever feel like that?
Yep.
And He's saying, I want the best of what you have, Dustin. If you trusted me in this, you can trust me in that. And that's what we do as followers of Christ, is we offer to Christ the best of what we have, which is my life and all that I have. The reality is, I didn't buy this robe. My parents bought it for me when I graduated from seminary. I actually didn't buy these shoes either. My father-in-law bought these shoes for me. So I did buy my pants. My wife got the belt for me, and my shirt, I think. So I bought 2 items that I'm currently wearing. And the only reason I have them is because God has blessed me with a job that has money. I mean, when was the last time you tried to make something out of nothing? And that's who we're called to be as followers of Christ, as people that are willing to surrender and sacrifice the best of what we have, so that God can know we are His people, and He is our God. And this is what it looks like for us. And this is what it looks like for our leaders as well. I'm going to do something a little atypical today. I think y'all know that about me now. I never do things more than once the same way. And I just want to say thank you, because as I look around the room at the faces, I look at people that lead in so many different ways. And 2019 was a truly amazing year. Financially, it was a great year for us. We started work on a new church. Our attendance was up. Our membership was up. I mean, things went really, really well in 2019. Yeah?
Yes.
Everybody excited about that? Yeah. And I want to recognize some of the people that helped get us there. Now, I can't recognize everybody. So what I'm going to do is talk about our people that have served in official leadership capacities. This is one of the things that's interesting about the United Methodist Church, is that every September or October we meet and we elect leaders for the next year that don't start until January. So these are people that are rolling off of leadership that have served last year in a different way that are going off, and then I'll get to some people later. So, Betty Leonard, where are you at? Come here. So you got the microphone, you have lots of power. Isn't that the same from Spider-Man? With great microphones come great responsibility. Betty served as our SPRC chair, which, if you don't know, is my direct boss. She kept me in line, and we became best friends pretty quickly dealing with some staffing issues. Diane Murphy served as our missions committee chair. And she helped this year start our Sunshine Smile program, which serves children in Ruidoso that need dental care. Dana Linzo has been our trustee for the past 3 years. Cindy and Sharon, yeah, they co-led our Imagination Preschool, and they are, after many years running away, I think they told me, no, they're still going to be on the committee, but they will no longer be serving as chairs. And then Ed McLeod was our chair, or partial chair of Unit MM. And so I just have a small token of appreciation, and it's probably not the best of what I could give to you. Hey, Ash, can you come help me? Yeah, can you hand them to him? So, it is a little mug that does say Texas Tech. Wait, no. You know, that's the real reason I became a Methodist, is I was like, which denomination's colors are red and black? But it's just a little cup that has Community United Methodist Church, our logo on it, and I just want to thank you for your leadership and for giving the best that you've had to God and our church for so many years. We wouldn't be here without y'all. So, thank you. If you haven't heard, I am working on my doctoral degree in a Doctor of Ministry in Spiritual Direction and Formation. If there's anything that I've learned over the last 6 months that I've started, is that the church was never intended to be ran by one person. It takes a team of people to be around it.
Amen.
I can't even remember my robe. So. And so I want to bring up the leaders that will be serving this year so that you know, if you have a complaint, you can go to them and not me. Brett Leach is our Administrative Council Chairperson. This is his 2nd year. Dan Sherrill is our new lay leader for this year. Vince Linzo is our recording secretary and head usher. Rick Langston is our treasurer. I've never wanted to be a church treasurer for that reason. Aaron Adams will more than likely be elected in a few minutes as our trustee chair. Carolyn Durrett is our finance committee chairperson. Anna is our financial secretary who keeps track of all our books. We have Murray Murphy, who is going to step in and be our SPRC chair this year, so if you have an issue with staffing. Nancy Clark will become our new missions committee chair. Praise be to God for Britt Weech, who misunderstood me but still accepted the job as the Imagination Station chairperson. I kid you not, I asked her if she would be the chairperson, and she thought I said, "Can you be on the committee?" And then she still agreed to be the chairperson after that. So thank you, Britt. Dan Knorr, who has been our Santa Elena chairperson and still is. Don Spurgeon is our church historian. Pat Walsh is our worship committee chair. Steve Rayburn is the chair of UMM. And Gene, y'all are the chairs of UMW. Gene's still up here. So you can tell that it takes a lot of people to keep me in line, right? It takes a lot of people for the church to operate as it does. This isn't Sunday school teachers or people that have volunteered with youth or children. These are our elected leaders, and I just want to say thank you to them. And I'm going to have us pray for them. Is that okay? As they prepare to lead us, because 2020 is going to be an interesting year, to say the least. Father, I thank you for the men and women that surround me, for their dedication first and foremost to you, and for their dedication to this congregation. I pray that as you lead us into 2020, that even though the way may look diverse and rocky, that you are the God that calms storms, and that you will lead us into your paths. So lead us beside still waters, lead us to greener pastures, and help us to truly become a church for this community. A church where we build up one another, and a church where we love one another. So help these men and women fulfill their task this year. Amen? Amen. And before they sit down, and before I finish my still ongoing sermon, I think, one of the ways that we as Wesleyans give our best is it's called the Wesleyan Covenantal Prayer. It's a way for us to say who we are and what we're going to do to God. And so if you would, please recite this prayer with me. So church, can you join me? I am no longer mine own, but thine. Put me to what thou wilt. Rank me with whom thou wilt. Put me to doing, put me to suffering. Let me be employed by thee, or laid aside by thee. Exalted for thee, or brought low for thee. Let me be full, let me be empty. Let me have all things, let me have nothing. I freely and heartily yield all things to thy pleasure and disposal. And now, O glorious and blessed God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, thou art mine, and I am thine. So be it. And now the covenant which I have made on earth, let it be ratified in heaven. Amen. Amen. And thank y'all for being leaders. Ashley has something, so if y'all come this way for you. And if you want a mug, just come talk to me later. I've got it. And the reason we do this, and I actually fought with a couple of people, isn't for the recognition, it's not for the glory, but it's because we long for God to have our best. We long to be like the wise men, the wise guys, the magi, and offer all that we have and all that we are to Him. And the reason we do this is because this is who God is, right? Our God is a God that gave Himself for us. The Father gave us the Son to live and dwell and walk and talk among us. The Son was willing to give us His life so that we can know life and forevermore. And the Spirit continually gives us His presence and His power at all times and in all situations. We give our best because God has given His best to us. And so our first act as leaders that I want us to do is I have 6 of our elected leaders, and we want to be the ones to serve you, because that's what leadership is, a service, in this order of communion. So Brett, if you would come up.